Okay, so we're live now, right? So, distinguished guests, panelists, colleagues, and my dear students, good afternoon. I welcome you all to this important webinar on remembering the Rohingya genocide of 2017, waiting for justice. May I request you all to turn off your microphone for the smooth transmission of our speech. The background of the atrocities against the Rohingya goes back a few decades now. However, atrocities during August 2017 crossed the experiences of the previous episodes. Thus, nearly a million of Rohingya had to flee from their homeland Myanmar to the neighboring nation Bangladesh. Their villages were burned, community people were killed, women, girls were brutally raped during this atrocity, which is termed as the textbook example of ethnic cleansing. The Rohingya communities in various places repeatedly demanded that the UN declare 25th August as Genocide Day. Bangladesh has been hosting the Rohingya since the beginning of the crisis. The extended makeshift camp for the Rohingyas in Cox's Bazar has become one of the largest refugee camps in the world. Under this backdrop, the Center for Peace Studies of SIPG at North-South University has organized this webinar to discuss the present condition and the way forward of the Rohingya crisis on this Rohingya Genocide Remembrance Day. The Center for Peace Studies has been organizing seminar, webinar, training courses on various areas of the Rohingya crisis since its inception. We organized a 2-day-long international seminar in 2019 at NSU on the Rohingya crisis. The Center for Peace Studies has also running a short course on the Rohingya crisis and recently has completed one short course on humanitarianism and diplomacy. Today, we have with us as the panelist Dr. Raymond Lau, Dr. Ishrat Zakia Sultana, Ms. Jainab Arkani, and Ambassador Shahidul Haq. Let me introduce the panelists with the audience now. Dr. Raymond Lau is an assistant professor at the Department of Political Science and Sociology. He has completed doctoral research from the University of Queensland in political science. His doctoral research focused on responding to mass atrocities, the responsibility to protect, and the responsibility to punish. He also has an MA from Macquarie University, Australia. Dr. Ishrat Zakia Sultana is an assistant professor in the Department of Political Science and Sociology at North-South University. She is also serving as the coordinator of CPS. Her doctoral research focuses on identity construction of Rohingya crisis in Bangladesh. She worked with FAO, UNDP, and UNICEF Bangladesh, and many other organizations, offering technical and strategic advice to the concerned government and development partners on empowerment of disadvantaged people. Ms. Jainab Arkani was born in Butidong of Rakhine State, Myanmar. Now she's staying in Canada. Ms. Jainab came to Canada in 2007 and started to help the newly arrived Rohingya refugees from Bangladesh refugee camps with their post-settlement work. She's the founder of Rohingya Language School in Canada. She's also a community development coordinator of the Rohingya Association of Canada. Ms. Jainab highlights the Rohingya crisis through awareness campaign. He was the foreign secretary, through awareness campaigns in various places. Now let me introduce Ambassador Shahidul Haq. Ambassador Shahidul Haq, who is a professorial fellow at North-South University, and he's also a senior advisor on migration and humanitarian policy of IOM, Dhaka. He was the Foreign Secretary of Bangladesh from 2013 to December 2019. Ambassador Haq also served as the Director for Migration Policy and Global Relation Division of IOM based in Geneva from 2009 to 2012. Ambassador Haq has also been extensively engaged in negotiation associated with the Rohingya crisis. We're very happy to have all these expert panelists for today's webinar. Let me explain a little bit about the modality of the webinar today. We'll have in total 3 rounds. For the first round, I would like to ask each of the panelists one question. Each panelist will have about 5 minutes to respond. We'll continue with this format for 2 rounds. In the third round, we'll open the floor for questions and answers. I'd also request the audience to write their questions in the chat box referring to the appropriate speaker, panelist, so that I pass this to the relevant panelist. Without any further delay, I'd now like to invite Dr. Raymond Lau. My question to Dr. Raymond Lau would be to briefly bring out the comparative perspective of genocides in different contexts, as you have worked in the context of Darfur, Uganda, and Sudan. And I would also like to request you to relate this perspective with the Rohingya genocide. Dr. Raymond Lau, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, thank you very much for Dr. Bubu, Siddiqui, for your very generous introduction. Glad to be here, getting involved in this very timely and important discussion. So, in responding to your question, I think the starting point is there is no denying the fact that this commission of genocide and mass atrocities has been a recurring phenomenon throughout the world. I think one of the probable reasons, most probable reason, is because in the eyes of the founders of the United Nations, the UN, what they have been preoccupied with is about addressing the problem of states waging wars against each other, okay, other than addressing problem of how states treat their citizens or people within the borders. But my argument that I'm trying to make here perhaps is in the context of the emergence of the responsibility to protect, in short from the R2B principle, and the establishment of the International Criminal Court, the ICC. Okay, what we're seeing here is there has been a changing international expectation in terms of how the response to this genocides and mass atrocities, in terms of preventing and stopping them in a more consistent and effective manner. So the cases, what I'm doing here is not about directly talking about the Rohingya crisis, but perhaps what I can offer my preliminary observation on this issue is by looking into 2 cases. One case, the case of northern Uganda and the case of Darfur, Sudan. So for the case of northern Uganda, I think many of you may be aware of this. Okay, this has been known as one of the longest ongoing conflicts in Africa since its eruption in 1986. Okay, what it involves is a rebel group called the Law Resistance Army, in short from the LRA, okay, being led by Joseph Kony. And the group has been notorious for abducting thousands of children to use as child soldiers or sex slaves. And for a very long period of time, okay, the government has not been able to respond to these atrocity crimes being committed, okay, by the Law Resistance Army in terms of its failure to protect its people, okay, from these atrocities being committed by the LRA. So in terms of government's ways of responding to this crisis, military solution has been used, okay, but not successful whatsoever. The government has also been trying to introduce what they call a policy of protected village. But in this sense, again, what this so-called protected village policy involves is about government's efforts to forcibly transferring or displacing those people into one particular spot in what they call the protected villages. But the problem is this policy, just like the military solution, has not been able to provide adequate protection for the people. So the last thing that the government is trying to do is about referring this case to the International Criminal Court. So this has made this situation concerning the LA as the very first test case being handled by the International Criminal Court since its establishment in 2003. But the problem, or the argument that I'm trying to make here is that even though it was a case of self-referral, so this is about the Uganda as a state party of the ICC, we voluntarily relinquishing its jurisdiction to the ICC by referring the case to the court. Okay, but the inevitable consequence for this is this has resulted in decreased incentives to the laws resistant army for negotiating a peaceful solution to the conflict. And in other words, the court in many ways has been instrumentalized by the Ugandan government and state party to eliminate the LRA as one of the most challenging political enemies of President Museveni and the Ugandan government. So in this sense, again, the involvement of the ICC for perpetrator punishment has been used as a substitute for providing immediate protection to civilians. In other words, what I'm trying to say here is the ICC's judicial intervention into this crisis could not provide adequate and immediate protection for the people in northern Uganda, for those who have been bearing the brunt of the mass atrocities being committed by the laws resistant army. Okay, referring to the case of Darfur, Sudan. So in many ways, this could be seen as a textbook example, also a textbook example of government's failure to protect its own people. But to make things worse, this could also be considered as a case of governments killing their own people, right? It's about governments killing their own people intentionally. So the government, the Sudanese government, has been trying hard to crush the two rebel groups within the region through the adoption of military solution. But just like the case of northern Uganda, this has not been very successful. But instead, what we are seeing here in terms of international response to this, what many call this as the first genocide of the 21st century, is the Security Council has referred the situation of Darfur into the International Criminal Court. Okay, but the problem, as we are seeing, is this Security Council's referral of the situation to the court has not fundamentally changed the situation. But to make things worse, the ICC's issuance of an arrest warrant to the Sudanese president has somewhat exacerbated the conflict. Because what we are seeing is since the issuance of the arrest warrants against the Sudanese president, the president has been trying very hard to impede the UN peacekeepers from operating effectively in the region. So in many ways, what can be said is this indictment against the Sudanese president has increased the Sudanese government's distrust of the UN peacekeeping forces, because this peacekeeping forces was perceived by the Sudanese government as a spy, looking to arrest the president for the ICC. So in this sense, the court's involvement has created an additional disincentive for the Sudanese government to cooperate with UN peacekeeper. So to make things short and precise, lessons perhaps that we can learn here through looking into these two cases. The cases of northern Uganda and Sudan is the northern Uganda's experience, as we can see, perhaps is the Ugandan government has deliberately distorted the problem of civilian protection okay, as an international criminal justice problem, okay, through its self-referral, okay, of the case to the ICC. As a result, okay, the civilians in Northern Uganda are not given the immediate and necessary protection, and the perpetrators, up until now, are still not being brought to justice. Okay, as for the case of the Darfur conflict, so what we can see, what has been shown here is that the pursuit of the international criminal justice, okay, as a result of the UN Security Council's referral, has exacerbated the patterns of obstruction and intimidation, okay, of the UN peacekeeping forces by the Sudanese government. And this was because the ICC's involvement, in particular the indictment against the president, okay, was perceived, okay, by the Sudanese government as a continuation of a confrontation approach aimed at regime change pursued by the international community. So, okay, my last.
Sorry to intervene,
Sure,
Dr.
sure.
Dr. Rahman.
Just one last
Yeah.
remark.
Would you please relate it with Rohingya crisis?
Sure. Yeah, sure.
And then I'll come back to it again. Okay.
Sure. So perhaps the insights, okay, that we can, or the lessons that we can learn in terms of how we can respond to the Rohingya crisis in a more effective and consistent manner, perhaps, is what we have to do, okay, is to make sense of what's the nature of the problem that we are facing. Are we facing an international criminal justice problem, or are we actually facing a problem of civilian protection? And in other words, what we have to do, or what international policymakers have to do, is to make sense of the timing, and in terms of what sort of actions have to be brought into practice in the first place. And so, in other words, what we have to say, what we have to focus of attention to is about whether, for example, okay, the international judicial intervention can help providing immediate and necessary protection for the people, for the Rohingya people, who have been bearing the brunt of this mass atrocities being committed by the conflict parties. Yeah, so the argument I'm trying to make is timing matters. And what matters also is about what kind of problem, what kind of lenses that we're using in terms of making sense of the problem happening at the moment. Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Rahman. So it was interesting to learn about your experiences from Darfur and Uganda. And there's a lot more we could learn from these experiences. And you mentioned that time is important. And if you look into the time, so it's been 4 years, and the Rohingya crisis is not new to in this region. So now I'll come back to you again. I'll now like to invite Ms. Jainab Arkani, who is now currently in Canada, and I know that it's almost late night at Canada. So thank you very much, Ms. Jainab, to attend this webinar, important webinar. So I would like to ask you to talk a little bit about, from your perspective, what do you see like the solution to this Rohingya crisis at this stage? And what is your perceived notion of solution? What can be done at this stage? Like if you see that after 4 years, the repatriation and many of the things are not happening as we expected. So, Ms. Jainab, are you?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Assalamu alaikum. And hello.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bubu, and all the organizer for giving me an opportunity to be here. So yes, it has been 4 years since we were driven out by Burmese regimes. What we feel now is hopelessness. There were refugees from 1978, 1992, 2005, and now more than 1 million in 2017, and merely surviving in Bangladesh refugee camps. And we are being played in the hands of regional geopolitical powers. We're just merely surviving. And even our mere existence is a crime. A sustainable solution was never sought or worked out. So yes, I feel hopeless, and there is no trust left for the UN and international community. So my perceived solution to the Rohingya crisis at this stage is accountability. The perpetrator Burmese regime needs to be held fully accountable, and a dignified repatriation to our land must be on hold. UN, NGOs, and media, they came and asked the victims how they got raped, how the atrocity unfolded. After the information, they left. So I feel like they betray the victims, us too, by re-victimizing them, us repeatedly over again and again. So we need those UN, NGOs, and media people putting pressure on the Burmese regime to take full responsibility. Mere lip service is nothing but deceiving. Burmese regime must resettle the Rohingya from IDP first, reinstate their full citizenship and all the rights that they deserve. They should be resettled to their original place of dwelling. Then the victims in Bangladesh camps will see and accept it as first step to a genuine and dignified repatriation process. So that is the only way to achieve a sustainable solution to Rohingya crisis. That's what I believe. That's what I feel.
Thank you, Ms. Jainab. So would you please little bit highlight some of the challenges that why repatriation is not happening, like you mentioned about the issue of accountability and justice issue. So do you like to focus a little bit on that? Like what are the key challenges and barriers that we're witnessing at this moment?
Sure. So first of all, why repatriation is not happening is they're not, the Burmese military is not honest. And because in 2012, massive massacre, so most Rohingya people from Sittwe and other parts, they were put in IDPs, and then they're kept there. So Burmese government is telling that they're ready to repatriate, but how? And some families, they did go back, but they were put in jail. So how can we believe that if we go back and they won't put us in the IDPs, and how long we have to stay in the IDPs and our children and young people futures? So we cannot trust them. So that's why we would like to see that the Rohingya from IDPs, first they have to be resettled into their original place of dwelling, and then they have to reinstate their full citizenship. That's the only way that we can believe that we can see that the Burmese regime is trustworthy. Otherwise, we cannot believe them. And we have been suffering since 1942, and I'm not sure how long. So they have to show us.
Thank you, Ms. Jainab. So we also expect that we'll soon have a sustainable resolution to this Rohingya crisis. And you mentioned about a historical perspective. So I'd now like to invite Dr. Ishrat Zakia Sultana, who worked her PhD on the identity crisis of Rohingya refugees. And I would like to ask to Dr. Sultana about explaining her perspective about, that what sort of livelihood challenges that Rohingya refugees have been facing at the moment in the Cox's Bazar camps. And I know that you have recently visited the camps from the Center of Peace Studies, and after 4 years, and today I was looking at the report, a daily study, and it says that there consistently a decline of funding as well to manage this huge displaced population to Bangladesh. So I'd now like to invite Dr. Sultana to touch upon all these issues. And you have 5 to 6 minutes. Dr. Sultana, please.
Thank you very much for having me in this webinar. And we remember this day, and we totally understand the importance of remembering this day for the Rohingya. So regarding the livelihood challenges, I would first like to focus on the way they live. We often hear the term that Rohingya people are put in a confined camp, right? We often hear this term particularly from the international organizations. So can we call the camp confined? I think the answer is yes or no. But the next question comes is, although we know about their living condition, their livelihood situation, can Bangladesh afford providing better support to them? So keeping this question in mind, from my experience, what I know that they do receive, the Rohingya community receive different kinds of support from the government, particularly to fulfill their basic needs, their food and accommodation. But what about the livelihood situation? Now, it is said that if a refugee community lives in a place for years, the place turns into a village. And the same thing has happened for the Rohingya community in Bangladesh. A good number of them either work in the local stores or the local markets, and many of them even own some of the stores to manage their livelihoods. But the question may come again, while the government provides support, why do they come to the mainstream job market? Why do they look for the livelihood opportunity? I'm not sure if there was any government-supported research conducted on this, but the reality shows that it's the human nature. It's 1.1 million people, right? And it is probably quite impossible to keep them confined and make it sure that they are not entering in the local job market. And there are a couple of reasons to consider. Number one, as I said, is the human nature. They will look for their own livelihood opportunities. And number two is the local community also looks for cheap labor. So we can see that it affects ultimately quite negatively on the employment of the local people, whether it is in the construction field or in the salt bed or in the department or stores or the local market, whatever, wherever the situation is. Now, the livelihood situation, if we talk about the peace build projects to resolve this crisis, I think that is quite impossible. The Rohingya community do face livelihood challenges, but this is part of the entire crisis. We cannot just focus on skill building and providing them livelihood opportunities, and you cannot just hope that the livelihood opportunities will be created and the problem will be solved. We have to look at holistically. Until and unless the entire Rohingya issue is resolved, the livelihood challenges will be there. So that's how I'd like to address the first question. Regarding the second question, as you have asked about my experience in my recent visit in the camps, I would say that it was quite an interesting experience, quite a positive experience. We have been talking and listening about the negative stories, the negative things, but amid all this, my trip to the Rohingya camp and the purpose I visited there was quite interesting. It was a joint project organized with Art Solution and NGO, and the project was focusing on art, how Rohingya children can demonstrate their potentials through art. An art competition was organized with Rohingya children and also children from the host community. And it was fantastic to see how both of them jointly participated in this competition. And after this competition, both of them appreciated their work. Although initially the idea was to organize this event in the camp, but the camp authority discouraged to have this event in the camp, and we totally understand the reason. But at Thainkali and Palankhali, in two locations, the event was finally organized, and tremendously positive responses were noticeable from the Rohingya community and the host community, particularly from the children. I mean, they are not as complicated like the adults, right? So they appreciated each of their work, and some of them have said that this project should continue because art can create some kind of social cohesion, establish good relationship, and also eliminate some kind of misconceptions about each other. So I think it was quite an interesting event, and despite this series of projects supported by the UN organizations or many different international organizations, I think this is a unique project where art was focused to connect the children from the Rohingya community and the host community. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sultana. So I'd also like to hear from you, not for this round, I'll come back to you, but I'm just giving some heads up so you can think about it. Like you mentioned about challenges of livelihood issues at the camp. So do you think that the issue of FDMN, the way Bangladesh is approaching them, and also it's a dilemma for Bangladesh, right? So if they're not been recognized as refugees, so what do you see the possibility to ensure other rights of these displaced community to Bangladesh? So I'll come back to you with this question after we hear from Ambassador Shahidul Haq. So thank you, Dr. Sultana. So I would like to invite Ambassador Haq to discuss about the geopolitical and bilateral complexities and challenges that we've been witnessing to resolve this Rohingya refugee crisis at this moment. And that all these challenges, and also about this after 4 years, and several attempts of repatriation has failed due to inactiveness or lack of cooperation from Myanmar government, and also although we have like Myanmar signed repatriation deal with Bangladesh, but nothing is not happening. So can I invite Ambassador Haq to reflect his views on this? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Bulbul, for moderating this session. Also to Professor Tawfiq and the CPS for organizing. It's a very, I think this is the first time where formally people are getting together to remember what happened in 2017. 25th of August or around that period. So it's in a way it's a train setter. That's how I see. Now, in order to respond to your questions, let me sort of quickly go through a reality check. I think that's very critical. And as we all know that we have today stepped into the 5th year of the crisis. That means the crisis has been with us for the last 4 years. It's likely to be with us for some more time. So it's time that we reflect not only the process, the exodus, the atrocities, but also the darkest hours of humanity, the darkest hours of Myanmar's history, where they have perpetrated atrocities, as Dr. Lau has narrated, and comparing with Sudan or Darfur and other places. One thing I want to be very clear up front is that both the fact-finding mission of UN and the International Court of Justice has said that there are indications that the government has carried out, and the military in particular, but I would say government, atrocity with the intention of committing genocide. So that's where what genocide should come in very strongly. Now, what are the quick reality check? Myanmar military and government has never been in peace with itself, especially with your minorities. So it's a phenomenon. It's a behavior of a state. It is not something just happening today and to a particular community. That's one reality, and we have to keep that. Otherwise, we'll lose sight of the genocide things. The whole issue of exodus to Bangladesh is not also new. It's a phenomenon. It's not an event. The Buddhists came in 50s and 60s and 70s, and then the Rohingyas came in. So it's becoming it has already become a phenomenon that we need to keep in track. So that's where we will see where the resolution is, if there is any. And the in today the pen holder, which is UK in the UN Security Council, Robert Dixon, has written a very good piece. I thought, and I need to quote, because I think he has very nicely captured the essence of the issue. Where is the genocide? He said, and I quote, "The recent Rohingya exodus followed decades of systematic disenfranchisement, discrimination, targeted violence, and persecution against the Rohingya in Myanmar." I think it captures well. So that's the reality check. Recent 40 rights have lifted the whole thing, the issue of Rohingya genocide to a different level in their report, where they have said that this is a mass atrocity crime that has been committed against Rohingya. So things are coming around. There's a global consensus in terms of the recognition that it has been a genocide, at least with that intention. So that's the essence of remembering it today, actually, not the what's happening in the camp and what's not happening in the camp. The Rohingya crisis is also not only a genocidal issue, but it is also a geopolitical game. And often the genocide and geopolitics mixed up. And in today, when we have on one front Afghanistan, the other in Myanmar, and Bangladesh in between has taken a different shape. And I think the critical aspect is, we have seen after the coup in Myanmar, the Arakan army has literally taken over the northern Rakhine. I think there's an understanding, how informal it may be, with the Arakan army and the Rohingya and the Myanmar military, that they will be in control of northern Rakhine, so that the Rohingyas are not able to take any vacuum. So that's very interesting in terms of geopolitics, because Arakan army is then linked with all these major forces that's there around us. So the last reality check is, there's no doubt now that the international community has utterly failed to stop another genocide. So the whole world, the slogan of never again has failed once again. And I'm waiting to see whether it is Afghanistan the next or somewhere else. The slogan will go, and we will continue to say the never again, but always there is an occasion to do this. So that's one. And the other very discouraging part is that international community is losing its interest in the Rohingya issue. They're thinking it is Bangladesh's problem. It is it is a Rohingya problem. It's none of their problem. That's very pathetic. So that's my reality check. Now, what are the challenges? And I'll stop with the challenges, so that next round I'll come back with a little bit of a way forward. First is, we have a new category of, I'm sorry to use the word category of victim of genocide, which is the Rohingya community. So let's bring that onto the platform. There should not be any hesitation saying that this is a new victim of genocide called Rohingya community globally. And they continue to suffer. It's not that it has stopped. Bangladesh also faces formidable challenges, including in terms of the geopolitical game that they have put themselves in by hosting these people. So that's the other part of the coin. And there's a declining interest. Not only you have, Dr. Bulbul has mentioned about declining supports, but in every sense of the word, it has fallen from the radar. So that's the challenge. So dignified return, voluntary return, safe return has become almost an illusion. So that's the issue. What is the way out? So possibly in the second round, we will look at it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Haq. So you brought out this entire issue of geopolitics and also perspective very well. And so you and also Dr. Lau mentioned about timing, like in your speeches, like since we're delaying, like we're entering into 5th year. So as time goes on, so international community may have lose interest. You rightly mentioned. So now would like to hear from Dr. Raymond that what can be done, like if you think about experiences that we have, like we're not learning from history, right? So there are many genocides that are happening in different places of the world, and we mentioned a few of them, and Rohingya crisis is one of them at the moment. And if you would like to see that in terms of repatriation on the Rohingya crisis, and if you would like to see from the role of ICJ and also ICC and also, international community. So what can be done from this international perspective to address this Rohingya crisis? Dr. Raymond.
Okay. Thank you, Professor Gugu, for the question. Yeah, I share the view of Ambassador Huck, okay, in terms of the international community's declining interest into the Rohingya issue. I think this has also been the problem facing, say, in terms of the national's response to the Darfur conflict. So I mean, what we can see actually is the attention span of the international community tends to be relatively short. And this is, unfortunately, this is also what we are seeing the current situation facing the Rohingya people. So I think what is important for the national policymakers to do, okay, is I think this issue, okay, should be once again be at least part of the agenda items, okay, being referred or being discussed, okay, by the UN Security Council, because just because 1 billion people being hosted by the Bangladesh government, on the one hand, definitely it's a very heavy burden, responsibility for the Bangladeshi government. But on the other hand, I think it is also equally important for us to see or to frame this as an issue which may have impact on the maintenance of the national peace and security. Right? And so in this sense, this is definitely should be the focus of attention for the UN Security Council. But of course, I also share the view of Ambassador Huck that the geopolitics definitely still will remain, right, an issue, okay, which the international policymakers must overcome. Yeah, but I mean, I think what I would like to say is still timing does matter, but at the same time, kinds of lens that we are using for framing the problem also matters. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Raymond. So for bringing out these issues, I would now like to hear from Ms. Jainab about, since she's been living in Canada for many years now, and you're also involved into different international organizations and representing your community into different platforms. So would you please explain a little bit about like how these Rohingya diaspora is playing role and contributing in the process of creating an awareness on behalf of the Rohingya community, and that might help to resolve this crisis. Please.
Thank you. So first of all, I would like to say that we need to understand who the Rohingya diasporas are. Most of them are the survivors of same atrocities. And less than 1% had formal education in Burma, and most of them are working in low-paid job and constantly struggling to feed their family and survive. Although there seems to exist many Rohingya organizations all around the world, they cannot work effectively. Some of them are lacking qualified manpower, while others are lacking financial support or both. And NGOs and funders support come through strict rules and disregarding Rohingya rights, which stand as a major barrier for Rohingya diaspora sustainable work. Yet, Rohingya diaspora has been doing an amazing job in terms of advocacy and improving the life of Rohingya in their respective countries. That's why some countries recognize as this atrocity as a genocide. I just would like to mention a couple of things that we did here in Canada. So we work with IIMM, Independent Investigative Mechanism from Myanmar, and we provided testimonies to them, and also and we did the photos exhibition. So Canadian Museum of Human Rights, we did the exhibition for 6 months, and it was initially for 3 months, and then it's extended to 6 months. And then we conduct so many meetings with political leaders, nationally and internationally, and also meeting with the community leaders just to talk about this our atrocity, how can we stop this crisis, and how can we help, and how can we pressure Burmese regime how can we pressure the Burmese region. And also we did lots of write-in campaigns with the students and school teachers. And also we have witnessed at the Senate and Parliament. And the most important thing we're doing, those are the advocacy work that we are doing. But another thing what we are doing is we are doing the improving life of Rohingya refugees who are resettled in Canada. So especially in North America, especially for women and children, because as you know, the Rohingya refugee who came here, most of them, they never held a pen in their life. When they came here, everything is new. They have to learn everything from the beginning. So those are the programs we are conducting, and especially for women and children, so that they can start a new life here. They can go out, they can study, they can work, they can stand on their feet. So that's what we are doing here as a Rohingya diaspora, not only in Canada but also around the world.
Thank you, Ms. Zainab. So just before I move into our next panelist, I'd like to just a follow-up question. Like, do you see that the Rohingya, you rightly mentioned that Rohingya diaspora is not unique one or similar one, right? Like it's a not homogeneous community as such, but do you see that connection between different continents, like diaspora community, like in North America, Europe, UK, or Australia? Do you have any sort of coalition who can work together to promote your rights into the international arena?
We have been working together actually, but if you see in different perspective, different point, you can see different. But people, we are working together because our main goal is only one thing. We would like to help our people. We would like to reinstate our citizenship, and we would like to get full rights in Burma and stop the genocide. So that's our main goal, and we have been doing it. So whenever it's different, we all have differences, but our main goal is one. So international community has to see we have different backgrounds, so we'll have different thinking idea, but because we have one main goal, international community has to work with all of us. You know, it's different. It's a colorful world, not only one color. We cannot be one. It's a different, it's a diversity. So we have diverse opinion, but the goal is one. So we have to work together. International community has to invite all of us to work together. It's not that there is no country that you have only one political party or one leader.
Exactly, yeah.
So yeah, that's what I would like to say.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Jainab. So I'd now like to go to Dr. Rishad Zakia Sultan, but before I go to you, I see that we have Ambassador Sufi Rahman among with us, who is the High Commissioner to Bangladesh, High Commissioner to Australia, and he has been to Myanmar as well. So Ambassador Rahman, would you like to briefly share your views about the role of Myanmar, and also, that the situation has changed a little bit after the recent coup in Myanmar. So I'd like to invite Ambassador Rahman. Would you briefly talk about it? Like, you have 4 minutes, please.
I think it would be better if I speak a little later on issues related to the way forward. That would be perhaps better.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, no problem. So I'll come back to you. Dr. Sultana, so as I mentioned, like the debate about FDMN and the refugee and ensuring the rights of Rohingyas in Bangladesh. And also, I can see that one comment in the chat box from Professor Norman Suazo, that his opinion that Bangladesh government made a fundamental mistake to identify the Rohingyas as forcibly displaced Myanmar nationals rather than as refugee. So would you please discuss about that as well? Or any Professor Suaz's question was open to all the panelists, so I would also like to hear from other panelists as well on this issue. So Dr. Sultana, please.
Thank you. So the term FGMN is quite interesting. From literal meaning, the word is fine. They were displaced forcefully, for which they left Myanmar. So Bangladesh calls them FGMN. But if we look at it critically, we must ask questions whether this term has added any value to the initiatives of repatriation or to the process of finding any sustainable solutions to this crisis. Bangladesh doesn't want to call them refugees, and one of the reasons to the 1951 Refugee Convention. But the way Rohingya community has received support in Bangladesh as FDMN and has been receiving support since 1978, is it any less than the support a refugee may receive in the context of Bangladesh? In this connection, I would also like to mention that only nearly 35,000 Rohingya have been registered as refugees in Bangladesh, who have the UNHCR and the Bangladesh government issued card. And we know very little about the reasons of registering such a small number of Rohingya as refugees. Until before 2017, the Rohingya who were not registered were called undocumented. And we didn't know the exact number of those undocumented Rohingya, but it was a huge number of people. I'm not saying that the 1951 convention is something very useful to be a signatory of, because it's a 70-year-old convention written in European context. So obviously it may not have any relevance in how today's world faces challenges in dealing with the displaced people, particularly the refugees. But my understanding is whether enough thought was given before labeling them as FDMN. If it was the idea that if Bangladesh calls them FDMN, it would be easy for Bangladesh to repatriate them, I would say it was wrong. Rather, by calling them refugees might have opened the window to initiate dialogues with other countries for resettlement. Because the main point here is we see that by calling them FGMN, it didn't help us to expedite the repatriation process or to provide some kind of any special facilities to them. We are providing support to them the way we can afford, right? So I do not find any justification of calling them FDMN, particularly when it comes to the discussion of repatriation or resettlement. Does that answer to your question?
Thank you, Dr. Sultana. So, do you see it as a barrier for their overall, like from Bangladesh government perspective, like it's a barrier or dilemma, like for ensuring livelihood facilities, other livelihood facilities, not just to maintain their daily needs or some of the basic needs?
Could you repeat the question, please? I missed the first part because of the network issues.
Okay. I'm saying that do you see it as a barrier or challenges to ensure other rights, not just like maintaining a few basic rights for the Rohingya, but if you think about, like you mentioned, about holistic manner. So from that perspective, do you see it as a key barrier for Bangladesh or dilemma for
Well,
Bangladesh?
well, calling them FGMN, I don't see it's a barrier for the type of challenges they face for their livelihood opportunities. Because as I said, that it is related to the entire crisis, their education problems, health service, livelihood, and everything is related to the entire crisis, right? So we are not like Canada, Zainab can tell better, where refugees are given status as refugees to go to the education institutions, to earn their degrees, even to enter the job market in the formal job sector. And we are not in a position to have those kind of things in our policies at this moment. We are totally under, that's totally understandable. But then the question comes, by calling them FDMN, whether we were able to prevent them from entering the local job market and not impacting, not affecting the local job market negatively. I would say no, we couldn't do that. So, and even if we have called them refugees, whether that would earn any change in this sector, any positive change in this sector. It's about the entire policies, and I'm not a policy expert, how we can mainstream these people if we want to, and how, if we want to not mainstream them, how we can lead them, how we can let them live a decent, dignified life until they're repatriated or until their resettlement takes place.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Sultan. I can fully understand that it's the complete complexity of this terminology issue and also dilemma for us. And I see that we have Brigadier General Dr. M. Sakat Hassan with us. I would come back to you, sir, if I just like to hear from Ambassador Shahidul Haq, and then I will come back to you to hear about your opinion. So, Ambassador Haq, would you like to come again and discuss about the way forward, like where we are now and what can be done to resolve this crisis after 4 years of this genocide? Dr. Haq, please. Sorry, Ambassador Haq, please. Mike, sir, you're muted.
Before we do that, I think we need to know what the Rohingya community desires, you know, and they have articulated their position very nicely. And Ms. Arakani has also said that what they sort of desire to get out of a process in terms of resolving the issue. I was just trying to find out, recall that in 2018, 19, 17, what were their demands placed to the Secretary Generals and to other incoming visitors? They were primarily centering around 5. I think we need to remember that if you're remembering the genocide. One is that Myanmar citizenship. That's almost a non-negotiable thing, it seems, for them. Second is the safety and security in Myanmar. Third is their return to their original homeland and homes, not somewhere else, in which Dr. Arakani has said about the camps. Then the fourth that I remember is reparation, which is again related to the accountability and justice, and then justice in the National Court. It was 2017 and 18 where Bangladesh was yet to engineer all kinds of things to take to the court. So that's, we need to remember. Now, the other thing is that if you are remembering Rohingya genocide, what that we are remembering? We are remembering that within a week, 10,000 people were killed. And this is an kind of almost a consensus number. It has also been referred both in the fact-finding mission and also in the ICG proceedings. And even Aung San Suu Kyi has said that number may not be that high, but there were some people killed by the law enforcement agency who would be held responsible. That was her word, and I'm just paraphrasing. Number two is that about another 5,000 to 7,000 villages were burnt, women were raped, and 800,000 people were expelled within 3 months of that happening. So this is what we are remembering today. That's very critical that we keep in mind to find out the way forward. So as far as the way forward is concerned, I think all stakeholders should take one principle. Let's not do more harm to the Rohingyas, wherever they are, Bangladesh, Myanmar, Canada, let's not do more harm, taking the principle of child rights. So that's very fundamental. If you can do that, then I think you are 90% into taking care of them. And the accountability of justice seems to be a very strong pathways for redressing their grievances, both in the citizenship and the rest of issues. And it seems that both globally, and I'm very happy today, I was seeing all the papers and everybody was sort of zooming to the issue of accountability and justice, which some of these people didn't believe when we were taking up in 2018. They thought we are actually creating some more complexities. And I'm very happy that Dr. Lau has also showed us in terms of timing. And that's why we did not go to the court next day in the morning. We went late after creating quite a bit of a lobby for that. And there are evidences as to how we did it, both in the ICZ and ICJ. That's also not been made public right now. Possibly it will be in the course of history, the way we are seeing the Darfur and others after 20 years. So that's the last one, and which you have put me onto the spot, saying that, how do we remember this day? 10,000 people, so many atrocities, women raped, children thrown into the fire that we see often in the pictures. I think it's time that we say that 25th August is a Rohingya Genocide Day. Let's start calling it. So thereby bring what we call the pivot onto this. Pivot onto the whole idea of Rohingya Genocide Day, which is 25th of August, which happened in 2017 in Rakhine, or Northern Rakhine to be very precise. So that's something I want to say, and Professor Bulbul, we have been talking about it also for quite some time. So that we could do. Now, some concluding thoughts. I think the Rohingya issue is a very critical issue in terms of humanity. But humanity is larger than Rohingya challenge. It is much larger because it will have an impact on other situations that we are seeing globally. The way Darfur is brought out, the way Houthis and Tutsis issues are come out, because these has much bigger than that, only that community. Rohingya issue is also much bigger in terms of humanity than just their problems. History doesn't spare anyone. And I don't think in this case it will spare anyone. So we will just wait to see that happening. The third, and this is something I'm speaking up from the papers, they're saying, people are, there's a kind of a situation where there's nothing to hope. And I tend not to agree with them. I think, especially to my diplomatic colleagues, diplomacy is primarily tracing hope in the most hopeless hours. That's what diplomacy is. So if it is the most hopeless hours, we should be able to track it. In fact, there's a big historian saying what role of a diplomat is in terms of catching the tail end of the coat of the god and try to follow him. So that's what the hope is all about. And I think we should not give up so quickly. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Haq, for your positive note about not to give up at this stage. Yeah, and a lot more things can be done. And before I move into Brigadier Dr. M. Sakhat, I would like to ask a follow-up question to Ambassador Haq. Do you see, like I also see, I've seen that you've been quoted into newspaper today, into different papers. So would you like to explain a little bit again into this forum, like how this military coup in Myanmar is making it difficult this crisis? Just briefly, if you would like to address.
I think, it is military which has perpetrated the atrocity crimes, and the same military which is still in power. So we cannot compare with Hitler's or with the Japanese, because they were defeated. They were under the bar, and then they were tried. It's more like Sudan, which Dr. Lau has the expertise. where, but that gentleman is again behind the bar. It was just a question of time. And its own people and military has caught him and handed over to the court. So that's one. Now, this military, as long as they are there, I don't think they will ever go into the path where national unity government is. Look at today, the national unity government in 24th of August has issued a statement. In the first para, I want to read, because this is also a 360-degree turn into the NLD's position. And knowing fully well that there is a stronger opposition to the Rohingyas. They're doing it, so they must have well thought it out. And I'm sure Aung San Suu Kyi has given a consent, otherwise they wouldn't have. And it's not one statement, it's a repeated statement. And I read it. The national unity government is deeply saddened by the horrendous violence, gross human rights violation, and massive displacement that Rohingya people suffered 4 years ago, resulting in hundreds of thousands fleeing their home and taking refuge in neighboring countries. So this is the beginning of their two-page statement. I think we need to take cognizance of that. And the government, as I said, formally, informally, there are many ways. They have so many ambassadors around the world now declaring their allegiance to the Nob, to start building that. And also, I would urge our diaspora community, the Rohingya diaspora community, start talking to them. They are appealing to come and join them. If you don't join them, then, once things happen in favor of them, you will not be any more accepted. They will think you that when we needed you, you were not there. So let's give them another chance. That's my appeal. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Haq. So I'd like to now move into Dr. Brigadier General Dr. M. Sakawata-san. So please briefly mention your points, and then I will move to Ambassador Rahman.
Yeah, I'll be very brief. There's hardly anything to talk. And I've been saying right from the beginning, which Mr. Haq would remember, that this is a very complex problem. This problem is not going to be resolved in 5 years, 6 years, or 7 years. Minimum, I think, 10 years time. NUG, I don't find any future in them, because none of the powers or none of the countries reckoned with has ever recognized the NUG to be a legitimate sort of government of Myanmar. And the history of Myanmar says it's very difficult to overpower the military. It's very homogeneous unit, because all of them, most of them are part and parcel of that oligarchy, which is controlling the resources of Myanmar. And then they have big backing from India and China, and even in ASEAN countries. So I don't see that is the coming off. And then Mr. Haq himself said about the attitude in the Rakhine, including the Myanmar Arakan army, who are now calling the shot, and it will be very difficult. If Bangladesh has to negotiate, it has to negotiate with three parties. One is the military, which I believe they're not interested. The other one is the Rakhine Buddhist, and number three is the Arakan army. However, my point and very straight question to our my friend Mr. Shahidul Haq, having dealt with the diplomacy, and I'm sure he talked about that diplomats never give up hope. With the changed situation now, including South Asia, the shift that we are seeing, entire world is now focused on Afghanistan. What is going to happen to their women? What is going to happen to their children? Whether they will be in hijab or they will not be in hijab. This is going on and on and on, and it will go on, because the superpower has been defeated, including NATO, and they are not going to take things that lightly. Under such circumstances, what are the options that Bangladesh has? Because the Chinese will be involved in Afghanistan. So is India is getting involved in Afghanistan. The two countries which could help us, I don't see any foreseeable in future that we can really repatriate these Rohingyas. Let us be very practical. Do we have other alternatives? If you don't want to speak it out, but you just say, yes, we have. So that's what my question is.
Thank you, Brigadier General Dr. M. Sakathasan, for your nice comments. And now I'd like to invite Ambassador Rahman. Are you in the room, Ambassador Rahman?
Yes. Can you
Okay.
hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Go on, please.
Yes. Good afternoon. In fact, we have had quite a bit of a discussion on this, but let me start from where the last two speakers have ended on the question of retaining hope or just succumbing to hopelessness. Which one should we do? So first and foremost, that what we tend to believe that the situation in Afghanistan will certainly take away the entire focus of the globe, and certainly the Rohingya issue will be buried under all kind of lack of focus. That is one concern. But it might also happen that emergence of a totally new kind of geopolitical challenge in Central Asia and around Afghanistan might compel those countries which have so far not been committed on the Rohingya issue to think otherwise. Let me explain slightly differently. All these years now, the major powers in our neighborhood has remained inactive. I should not name them, but it is well known to all of us. But now the situation is changing. Now, can these parties who have all these years been quiet and enjoying their inaction can remain totally inactive? For them to have 3-4 kind of challenges in their neighborhood would be challenging for them also, whether it is China or India. So in their own interest, in order to be able to focus on a bigger issue, they might even think of solving a smaller issue, quote unquote. Because in their understanding, the game that is going to be played in Afghanistan around that would be a much bigger game in comparison to the one which is happening in Myanmar. So that is something we should be, as diplomats and strategic thinkers, we should be very carefully following it. There are silver linings. We need to understand that these silver linings should be availed. That is one. Second, taking a cue from what where Ambassador Shoidullah stopped, the newer players, the newer appreciation that is happening in Myanmar. It is very easy to say nothing will happen in Myanmar, but we must remain engaged in Myanmar. So as an operative there, quote unquote, what we felt that it was actually an alliance of 4 major forces in Myanmar that was against the Rohingyas. Now these forces, now whether question is that this alliance, whether it is going to be the same alliance or it is a new alliance that is emerging. In my understanding, that alliance is not going to hold for long. The majoritarianism in Myanmar is now taking a different shape. If the Bamar community is not united the way it has been united in the last 3 decades, it will have a totally different outcome. And we can see the fractures emanating in the Bamar community, the dominant one. Now, if that is why, please don't dismiss the NUG experimentation. It creates a new kind of equation there. And if you can divide the two from the military and the Bama, then it's a totally new ball game. And there the smaller players, like the ethnic parties, can then make a real difference, which is not possible, which was not possible in the earlier 2 decades. So it is very important that we carefully discern these changes that we see in case of NUG, whether it is with full support of the interned leadership or without their support. The newer generation will certainly demand something new, which will be much more easier in the greater context of inclusion in Myanmar, the federal structure in Myanmar, and the Rohingya solution must be sought within that context. Alone, it will not happen. That has been our understanding. And if somebody has ever thought that within 6 months, these problems will be over and they will return, that was actually a daydreaming kind of thing. At least as a practitioner, as an ambassador sitting there, I never felt that way. So, and the question somebody might ask, then why did you sign this bilateral agreements? It is like purchasing an umbrella for a rainy day. So there is nothing wrong in buying an umbrella, keeping it with you, so that if there is a rain, you can use that umbrella in the most appropriate time. So we did that. Now, as far as the way forward is concerned, let me also say a few things. With the newer sentiments emanating from within Myanmar, the NUJ we have discussed. The most important is the Arakan Army and the United League of Arakan, the political front of Arakan Army. How they are going to behave. Things are changing very fast in Rakhine. Now, if you today engage with Myanmar Army, and if Myanmar Army says that we are willing to take the Rohingyas, it is not possible, because the night belongs to the Arakan Army and the day partially belongs to the Myanmar Army. So we have to have a new engagement with the newer parties. These newer parties, in my understanding, whatever I knew and whatever I even know today, would be much better to negotiate than the Myanmar Army. So that is where I find some hope. And as far as the international community's failure is concerned, we know their failure, but at the same time, there are little openings also. If you see the behavior of some of the countries like Japan or Singapore, and even Australia, where from I am speaking, it was not that simple for an Australian oil and gas major, Woodside, to abandon Myanmar. There are reasons. Things happen and things will happen, but the question is, we have to have tenacity and the durability in our belief that engagement is a solution. Engagement can bring solution, and if we remain, well equipped in our understanding and pursue it hard with determination, the solution might come. I, in my understanding, believe that with the newer players, the newer kind of alignment taking place, even the case of Afghanistan might be of some use for us to push the agenda of resolution of this Rohingya issue, which has not happened in 4 years. But I hope that with constant engagement, it will happen. And on the question of the FDMN, I think I wanted to say something, but I have already taken a lot of time. It will take another 5 minutes for me to explain the pros and cons of FDMN. I will do it for a later day. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ambassador Rahman. So
Can I come in?
Yes, please. Yeah.
1 minute. Let me add on. I fully agree, and that's what I was saying. The whole Arakan Army thing, and also the Nook Party. But let me also sort of give another add one more issues with the Sufyud, is that if you look at Afghanistan, the nature of conflict of Afghanistan is basically ethnic conflict. The same is in Myanmar, which is an ethnic conflict. Although there is a religious component which is more acute in Myanmar than in northern. Than in Afghanistan. So that's one to remember. And I'll give you also the sentiment. There was an American senior diplomat asked me that why is Bangladesh so removed to Palestine, so so concerned about Palestine issues? Why every time your prime minister has one para on Palestine? And then where from the senior diplomats coming? And I said, you'll never understand this. This is something in our heart. The feeling about the Palestinians. So there are people also globally for whom the Rohingya is in their heart. They will continue to raise it, and years after years. So that you have to take into consideration and think, if Taliban started taking Rohingya into the heart, what will happen? Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Haq. So now we have some questions in the chat box. I will briefly go through these, and we discussed one question raised by Professor Norman Suazo, and his question is, after 4 years, I'm just reading the last part of his question. After 4 years of lack of progress and repatriation, I think it is past time for the BD government to identify them as refugees and allow the international community to function accordingly. do the panelists have an opinion on this? Anyone would like to briefly address this point? Dr. Sultana mentioned a little bit about it. Any other? Okay. Next question is from Nupur. This is again an open question.
Dr. Bulbul, Ambassador Shufio wanted to say something probably. He raised his hand.
Yeah. Please, Ambassador Rahman, would you like to state briefly? Yes.
The question of this nomenclature of refugee or FDMN or whatever, in our understanding, it is totally dealing to the final outcome of these people returning to Myanmar. If the final outcome is to be their dignified return back to Myanmar, whatever you call it, their return will happen. So it is beside the point. Calling them refugee and non-refugee on FDMN or something else will have no bearing on their willingness to go to Rakhine or the treatment by the Myanmar authority on their return. So as far as the final outcome is concerned, it has got no meaning. Now, Dr. Jakia Sultan, if I'm not wrong, she talked about this treatment would have helped them to get third country resettlement. This is a non-starter. If somebody studies the numbers of the third country resettlement in the last 20 years, you can understand this is not even 1% of the solution. If you try to define the whole thing for 1% and leaving this 99% aside, it is no, I think, consideration. Now, as far as this, the treatment of the refugees is concerned, only one party and allied to that party who would be very happy is the UNHCR and the allied agencies. So we cannot define things to fit their preference. If the definition of refugee would have been the most important thing, I go back to the Afghan refugees of 1970s, late 1970s. This definition of refugee solved the Afghan problem? No, it has got no meaning whatsoever. At some point of time, it was 8 million. Now it is 1.5 million in Pakistan. I'm not talking about other countries. So this definition didn't impact. It actually, the situation in Afghanistan impacted the movement of people. Here also, the situation in Rakhine, or for that matter, the approach of the Myanmaris, whether through the NUG or through the Myanmar army or Arakan army or other players, that will define the outcome, not the terminology. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Rahman.
Bulbul, I
Yes.
think we have done injustice to our senior colleague, Dr. Brigadier General Shakawat. I think, is he around still? Because he posed a question and we haven't answered actually.
Oh, sorry.
Sir, are you around?
I think.
No, I think he has left.
Yeah.
So,
well, I was keeping this for the.
No.
Yes.
The reason that he actually what we are suggesting is, do we have an option B, the alternative, the use of force that we talked about in the class the other day? That's he was heading towards. Is the time that we start taking that. I strongly feel that we are still not there, and I don't think that will be something visible will settle the issue. Rather, it will become more unstable and bring in other actors whom we don't want to be in our neighborhood to play a more destructive role. So thank you. I think we should have answered him right away.
Okay, thank you, Ambassador Haq. So we have some other questions. So to Dr. Sultana, you have a question from Ankita Datta. Shall I read it, or it says, what about the Vashanchar relocation and the livelihood of the Rohingyas there? And also another question about a relationship between host and the refugee Rohingya community. It's the question from Nupur. Would you like to address these two questions?
Sure, thank you. So regarding this relocation, until now, we know that 18,000 Rohingya from Cox's Bazar have been relocated to Bhasan Char. And in July, we have seen in media that among these 18,000, 2,800 of them received 13 types of materials from the government to manage their livelihood, such as rickshaw vans, goats, and many other items that could help them to create their livelihood opportunities among themselves, which is definitely great, and it was much needed because we know that there is rare or no opportunity for their livelihood in Bhasan Char. But then the question comes, if we plan to relocate 100,000 Rohingya to Bhasan Char, that means more 80,000 will join soon, step by step. Would it be a wise decision to spend money this way to continue sending these gift items for their livelihood, to create the livelihood opportunities in Bhasan Char for that 100,000 people? I'm not sure if that could solve the problem of livelihood opportunities in Bhasan Char. Now, the question may be in a different way, that why don't you then think of investing this money in Cox's Bazar? I know that there are some debates. I know that there are some debates that investing money in Cox's Bazar could be accepting the genocidal acts that Myanmar has committed, and I totally agree with this. But then how do we look at this kind of investment in Bhasan Char, and what kind of messages do we actually give to the international communities and Myanmar through this kind of investment? And you know, to create this livelihood opportunity in Myanmar, this gave a positive message to the UN agencies, and you might have seen in the media that UN is going to be part of this Bhasan Char project from this year, from September. So that means we are drawing the international organizations' attention to Bhasan Char, and I'm not sure if that could be soon be another Kutupalong in Bhasan Char. The second question, was it about the Rohingya and the host community relation, if I'm not wrong?
If the repatriation is delayed, then what would be the consequences?
Yeah, so that's interesting, because initially we have seen that lots of sympathies were there among the host community for the Rohingya, and there is no doubt about this, that the role Bangladesh has played to support the Rohingya is completely exceptional and extraordinary. No country in Bangladesh can play this kind of role. Having so many limitations, so many difficulties, so many crises, Bangladesh accepted this huge number of Rohingya. So no doubt about the role of the Bangladesh. But then generosity and humanity and finding a solution to the crisis, I think all of these need to think more critically. And the way we are passing days, we see that some kind of hostilities have been growing among the host communities, like the relationship between the host community and the Rohingya is not that smooth that we have seen in the past. And during my research also in 2016, I have seen that they complained that if there is any hostile situation between the Rohingya children and the host community children, the law enforcement agencies stood beside the host community children. So things have been changing, right? Because how many more the host community people will accept these people in their land? So that's a realistic question. That's a common question. So again, but I'd say that still, despite all these hostilities and the evidence of how the local employment has been suffering, the environment has been suffering, economy has been suffering in Cox's Bazar area, there is still positive relationship between the host community and the Rohingya people. And that's because we are generally generous. We are naturally very generous to support these people who are stateless and vulnerable. But the question comes at the end, whether this positive relationship or social cohesion will continue for a long time.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Sultana. That's why, like, we are hearing a lot about bringing social cohesion, and Ambassador Hawk mentioned about the an article about British High Commissioner, and he also talked about, emphasized on that issue. So we're almost at the end of this webinar. We will take 2 questions, and then we'll observe 1 minute silence with the departed soul in 25th August in 2017. And with that, we'll end the webinar. But before I do that, we'll have 2. Dr. Raymond will have a floor, and we have 1 question from Shermin to, I think it's to Ms. Jainab. Shermin is asking, let me find the question.
She has raised her hand. Why not you let her? Yeah, she has raised her hand.
Shermin, would you like to briefly? Yeah.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon, everyone. I'm from my office, but still I'm joining. Thank you.
Okay. Please be brief. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. I have question for Shahidullah, sir. Anyone can also reply, no problem. Sir, the issue is whether these Rohingya leaders or the community members can establish or create just one unified platform from where they will raise their voice, whether in vocal or writing, to the international community, donor, and for ICG, anywhere. So unified voice, what they want, how they want dignified return to Myanmar, like all these issues. And what would be Bangladesh government's supports to form that unified platform? Thank you.
Yes. Ambassador Hawk, would you like to respond?
Yeah, no, thank you. Very good question. I think it needs another seminar but my short answer is absolutely. It's time. They are currently, there are two kind of broader cohorts. One is these people who are in the camp, the Rohingya, and they are also outside. Rohingya, Dr. Arakan is here representing them. So there's already a move outside that I'm aware of, where all the diaspora Rohingya community wants to have one organization. It's not still there because there's a major rift, but it looks like that there's a big discussion. So that's one. Within the camp, absolutely, time has come when we should have something like that within the existing norms and practices, and it should be very transparent within possibly with the full knowledge and consultation with the Triple RC and others. So certainly that's an objective. The third one is that who is making this Rohingya atrocities known to the world. Lately I have noticed on a weekly basis the NUG representative who is in New York, the ambassador, the former ambassador, PR, he is regularly sending a update. It's about 4 or 5 page update on the situation in Myanmar to the Secretary General, which is very interesting. And some of us are also getting a bit of it. And where they have also not only looking at the democracy, but also looking at what's happening in the Arakan, what is happening with the and all. So that's that they have taken on the responsibility, where they have not excluded minorities, in particular Rohingyas, from reporting. So just to update you. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Ambassador Hawk. So, Dr. Raymond, would you like to comment? I see that you raised your hand, and that would be your last comment from the panelist.
Thanks, Professor Bulbul. I think Professor Swaso earlier, he has raised a very important point about the labeling. I mean, the issue at stake, in my opinion, is seeing this from the outside perspective. It is not totally fair for Dhaka to shoulder this responsibility alone. So in terms of prolonging the international community's attention span in this issue, I think this labeling of the people as refugee may help, let's say, prolonging his attention span of the international community into this issue. Although, as far as I know, Bangladesh is not yet the signatory of the UN 1951 Refugee Convention. But anyway, just a very quick question, if I can, for Ms. Akani. Since you are based in Canada, I'm just curious, I'm just wondering if the civil society organizations there are they being active in like making this issue known to the Canadian general public? Because what I'm seeing is one of the reasons why the Darfur conflict was being so-called well known to the international society is because the Save Darfur coalition, right? They play a very crucial role in terms of raising international attention to the Darfur conflict. So I'm just wondering if the same, can happen, right? In terms of the role that the civil society organization can play in this Rohingya crisis. Yeah, thank you.
Ms. China, would you like to respond?
Yes, sir. Yes. So civil organization, we have been doing lots of things. We did the demonstrations and all these things, and also Canada is the first country who named this atrocity as a genocide. And also we strip away Aung San Suu Kyi honorable citizenship. So we have been doing. I know it's not a lot, but we have been doing.
Okay, thank you, Ms. China. So we're at the end of our webinar. So we'd like to observe 1 minute silence for the deported souls during the genocide in 2017, 25th of August. So I would now request everyone for 1 minute silence. Thank you, everyone. We're at the end, as I mentioned, to this webinar. I would like to thank our panelists, especially Ms. Jainab Arakani. She's attending from Canada. It's a late night in Canada. And also Dr. Raymond Lau, Dr. Ishrat Zakir Sultana, Ambassador Shahidul Haq, Ambassador Safir Rahman, Brigadier Generals and Sakrat Hassan, and our colleagues, our students, and distinguished other guests. Thank you for your presence. And before we leave, I would just like to announce one publication of our book on Rohingya crisis, our edited book, just to share you this information, and then we'll end our webinar. Can you see this, my screen? So that's the new book coming out from Prathama. It's just about the life and livelihood about the Rohingya communities, refugees in living in camps. And also there are many other topics divided into different thematic area. So thank you, everyone. Thank you very much for your time. And I would like to end this webinar for today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Thank you. So good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.